I'm a 32-year-old man married to my wife Anna, who is 30 for 5 years. We've gone through the usual ups and downs, but overall, I thought we were doing well. At least, that's what I believed until my family decided to host a surprise divorce party for me. The whole situation started about 2 weeks ago when I received an invitation from my mom. It was a last-minute, very vague message saying that she and my sister were hosting a new beginnings party at my parents' house. Right away, I felt uneasy. First off, what kind of party is called New Beginnings? And secondly, there were no birthdays, anniversaries, or any other events to celebrate. I double-checked to make sure I wasn't forgetting something important, but nothing came up. I showed the invite to Anna, and she was just as puzzled. My mom and sister don't typically invite both of us to gatherings. They tolerate Anna. But there's always been tension, especially with my sister. She's never liked Anna, and it's been obvious from the start. I'm not sure if it's jealousy, control issues, or something else, but it's been an issue for years. Still, I thought maybe it was just a family dinner with a strange name, so we didn't overthink it. That was until my best friend made a comment that set off every alarm in my head. We were having drinks after work when he casually asked if I was okay, referring to my relationship with Anna. I was confused and asked what he meant, and he shrugged, saying something about my sister, talking about how things were tough and it might be better for me. He didn't take it seriously, just assuming she was stirring up drama, as usual. At that point, I felt completely uneasy. Anna and I had been a bit off lately, just the usual married stuff, work stress and silly arguments over little things like forgetting to take out the trash. Nothing major, but why was my sister acting like we were about to split up? I mentioned it to Anna, and she paused before brushing it off, saying it was probably just my sister's usual nonsense. Fast forward to the night of the party. We arrived at my parents' house, and the driveway was packed, way more cars than I expected. I thought it would be a small gathering, but when we walked inside, it looked more like a full-blown event. We were greeted with banners, balloons, and a huge cake. Not just any decorations, but giant golden-lettered signs reading "Freedom at Last" and "Cheers to New Beginnings." There were tables full of champagne glasses, people smiling and clapping, congratulating me like I'd just received a big promotion. Anna stiffened beside me, and I could feel her hand tightening around my arm. Then my mom raised her glass and made a toast to my wonderful son, finally moving on to a fresh start. "We're so happy for you, honey." I felt like I had been hit by a truck. I looked at Anna, and she was pale, almost ghostly. My mind was racing to make sense of what was happening, but before I could process it, my sister stepped forward, grinning like she had just won the lottery. "It was time," she said, smug as ever. The room went silent, and everyone waited for me to respond. I finally managed to speak. "What the hell is this?" My dad cleared his throat and said, "We saw the signs, son. It wasn't working. You deserve better." Anna made a sound that was half a laugh, half a choke. She turned to me, eyes wide, and whispered, "Do they know something I don't?" Her voice was quiet, but in the stillness of the room, it cut through like a knife. Before I could even answer or fully understand what was going on, she stormed out. I snapped out of my shock and ran after her, shoving past my sister and ignoring my mom calling my name. The whispers from the crowd barely registered. By the time I reached the driveway, Anna was already in the car, the door slamming shut. I grabbed the handle. "Anna, wait!" But she locked the door and wouldn't even look at me. I stood there in front of my parents' house with a divorce party happening behind me for a divorce I didn't even know was happening, and my wife was driving away. The moment Anna's car sped off, I knew I was in trouble. I ran back inside, grabbed my keys, and left without saying another word to my family. The party was still going, people laughing and clinking glasses. I heard my sister say something behind me, but I didn't listen. I called Anna as I drove home, but all my calls went straight to voicemail, and my texts were left unread. When I pulled into the driveway, the house was dark, but her car was parked outside, so she was home. However, when I got inside, the bedroom door was locked. I knocked. No response. I knocked again, harder. "Anna, please." Silence. I tried the door handle, but it was locked. I stood there for a minute, then leaned my forehead against the door. Another call went straight to voicemail. I checked my phone. 12 missed calls, but not from Anna. They were all from my mom. I ignored them. Then my phone notifications blew up. The family group chat was full of messages and photos from the party, pictures of the banner, the cake, people posing with champagne glasses. And right in the middle of it all, my sister posted, "Fresh start for my bro. Couldn't be happier for him." The comments were a mix of confusion and support. Some relatives, especially those who weren't there, were asking, "Wait, what? He's getting divorced." Others were congratulating me. I called my mom and she picked up right away. "Oh, honey, I've been trying to reach you. Are you okay?" I didn't even know where to begin. I asked her what the hell that party was about, and she sounded surprised, like she didn't expect me to be this upset. "We honestly thought we were doing what's best for you," she said, her voice shaky. "Your sister showed us things, convinced us you were unhappy, and we just didn't want to see you struggle. We never meant to hurt Anna, but we thought we were helping you." I asked her how she could think that. There was a pause before she answered. "Your sister convinced us you were planning to file for divorce. She even showed us fake text messages, things she claimed you had written about how unhappy you were. She made it seem like you were only staying with Anna out of fear. We thought we were just supporting you in something you hadn't admitted yet." She twisted things. Times I'd vented about work stress or had small arguments with Anna into proof that my marriage was doomed. Somehow my entire family went along with it. I told my mom she should have asked me before throwing a damn divorce party. She actually laughed. "We were just looking out for you. We thought you'd be relieved." I hung up and went back to the bedroom door. I knocked again. Still nothing. I tried one last time. "Anna, please talk to me." The lock clicked, and the door cracked open just enough for me to see her face. Her eyes were red. She looked at me for a long time before asking, "Do you secretly want this? Is that why they think this?" I shook my head immediately. Number, absolutely not. She let out a shaky breath. "Then why does your whole family think we're done?" I told her everything. About my sister twisting things, about my mom assuming the worst, and how none of it was true. She listened, but when I finished, she didn't look any less hurt. "Then what have you been telling them about me?" she asked. I told her the truth. I hadn't been talking about her, just venting about work stress and feeling exhausted, but never about our relationship. I never made it seem like we were falling apart. She didn't seem convinced. I stepped closer. "Anna, I swear to you," I said. She shook her head. "I don't know what to believe," she whispered before shutting the door again. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I woke up to more group chat messages. Some family members apologized, while others not so much. My sister's latest message read, "I get that he's upset, but we were just trying to help. He'll see it eventually." My mom's follow-up message said, "We only wanted what's best for you, sweetie." And the worst one came from my dad, who barely spoke during the whole party, just saying, "Give it time," as though I was eventually going to thank them for this. I snapped and typed a message for everyone to see. "I don't know what the hell you all thought you were doing, but this is beyond messed up. My marriage is not over. I never said I was filing for divorce. You embarrassed my wife, humiliated me, and made it clear you don't respect my relationship. Until every single one of you acknowledges how wrong this was, don't contact me." The reactions started pouring in. Some people apologized right away, saying they had no idea and just went along with it, while others doubled down. We were only trying to help. We thought you'd be happy. You're overreacting. My sister was silent, so I blocked her, then blocked my mom. I walked into the kitchen where Anna was making coffee. She didn't say anything, but I told her anyway. I blocked them. I'm done. She nodded. Good. I waited for some relief, maybe a sign that this fixed things, but she just took her coffee and walked away. That's when I realized cutting them off wasn't enough. The damage was already done. The next few days were horrible. Anna barely spoke to me. She wasn't ignoring me outright, but our conversations were short. No eye contact, no affection. It was like she was waiting for me to say something, to prove something, but I had no idea what. I left for work in the morning, came home at night, and nothing changed. She'd be in the kitchen or on the couch, scrolling through her phone, but there was this distance. On the third day, my phone rang. It was my mom. I didn't pick up. A voicemail came through. I know you're upset, but we really were just trying to help. We saw the writing on the wall, honey. We thought we were speeding up the inevitable. I deleted it without responding. Later that night, another call came through, this time from my dad. I debated ignoring it, but something told me to answer. He started calm, saying he didn't want to argue, but then he dropped the bomb. We had proof. You know, you were unhappy. We saw the messages. I asked him what the hell he was talking about. He hesitated. Your sister showed us. I walked into the bedroom and put the call on speaker, hoping Anna would hear this. She was lying on the bed, scrolling through her phone. I asked him again what messages he was referring to, and apparently my sister had sent screenshots, old texts from months, even years ago. Random complaints, work stress, feeling exhausted. She had pieced together these out-of-context messages and convinced my parents they were proof I was miserable in my marriage. Anna froze. Her phone lowered, but she didn't look at me. I pressed my dad. How did she even get these messages? Silence. Then the truth. I had left an old phone at my parents' house, thinking I had wiped it before upgrading. Apparently, my sister had gotten a hold of it. I never thought she'd go through it. Who does that? But she did. She pieced together old venting texts, work complaints, and out-of-context messages to fabricate proof that my marriage was falling apart. I ended the call, and Anna stood up, leaving the room. I followed her into the kitchen, trying to explain that it was stress from work, not about her, but she didn't respond. I grabbed my phone and called my sister. She answered, sounding almost cheerful. I demanded an explanation, but she didn't even express regret. I saved you from yourself, she said. I hung up. That night, I barely slept. I wanted to fix things, but whenever I tried to talk to Anna, she just nodded, muttered a reply, and went back to whatever she was doing. It wasn't anger, it was disappointment. The next day, a cousin I trusted called with more news. Over the years, my sister had carefully manipulated our family dynamics. She often played the victim, telling relatives that she was concerned about me and making Anna out to be the cause of my supposed unhappiness. My parents, already inclined to side with her, believed every word, and distant relatives who only heard her side assumed she was telling the truth. No one questioned her because she had always been the concerned sister, just looking out for me. Then my cousin asked if I had seen my sister's Reddit post. I had no idea what he meant, so he sent me a link. It was a lengthy post from an anonymous account, but the details were all too familiar. It described a man trapped in a toxic marriage, his wife cold, dismissive, and controlling. The man wanted out, but was too afraid. His family had to step in to help him. It was my life, twisted, exaggerated, and completely fabricated. The comments were filled with people calling the wife a narcissist and advising the brother to leave her, some even praising the sister for looking out for her sibling. I sent the link to my best friend, who did some digging. The account had been active for years, and this wasn't the first post about me. Anna walked into the room while I was looking at the screen. I showed her the post, and she read it. She said nothing for a long time, then quietly murmured, "This is why they hate me." I had no answer. That night, Anna lost it, not at me, but at everything. She started pacing, ranting about how she had spent years wondering why my family never liked her, why they never gave her a chance. And now it all made sense. She turned to me and asked, "How am I supposed to trust them? How am I supposed to trust you?" I told her I was done with all of them and was going no contact. She didn't respond. I grabbed my phone, blocking my sister's number, then my mom's, and then my dad's. That's when my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. I opened it. "You'll thank me later." It was from my sister. I blocked that number too, but deep down I knew this wasn't over. A week passed and Anna wasn't ignoring me, but things weren't the same. Conversations were short, interactions careful, like she was waiting for me to slip up and prove her worst fears right. Every night she went to bed early, and every morning she left for work without saying much. She wasn't angry, she was distant. I suggested marriage counseling, but she just laughed under her breath and said, "Maybe your family should be the ones going." I didn't push it. Meanwhile, my family remained silent. No apologies, no explanations, nothing, until my mom called from a new number. I let it go to voicemail. When I checked it, her voice was soft, not apologetic, just tired. "I know you're upset, but we really were just looking out for you. We only did what we thought was best." They weren't sorry. They didn't even think they were wrong. I blocked the number. That night, a cousin I still trusted reached out. He asked if I wanted to know the truth about my sister. I told him to spill. Apparently, my sister had been planting rumors about Anna for years. Little things, comments at family gatherings, hints dropped in conversations, implying Anna was controlling and manipulative, and that she wasn't the right one for me. She never made outright accusations, just seeds of doubt enough to make people believe it. Then my cousin asked if I had seen my sister's Reddit posts. I told him I had, the one about my toxic marriage. He sent me more, different accounts, same pattern. Every few months she had been making new posts with the same theme. Her poor brother stuck in a miserable marriage, Anna cold, controlling and selfish. Every argument we had, every minor issue, my sister twisted into evidence that I was trapped. And people believed it. Hundreds of comments, thousands of upvotes, advice from strangers telling her to save me. It wasn't just one post, it was a campaign. I sent the links to my best friend, and he traced some of the accounts. Different usernames, but always the same writing style. My sister had been obsessed with destroying my marriage. Anna walked into the room while I was staring at the screen. I showed her the posts. She scrolled through them one by one, then put the phone down and sat in silence. I waited. She whispered, "This is why they hate me." She locked herself in the bathroom for an hour. That night, I sent the screenshots to the family group chat. No message, no explanation, just the truth. A flood of reactions came in. Some relatives were horrified, asking if this was real, if my sister had really been doing this for years. Others were defensive, saying I was taking this too seriously, that it was just her opinion. Maybe she was just worried about me. My sister was silent until finally she replied, "I was just looking out for my brother." Like it was nothing. I blocked her, then texted my parents, "Either you acknowledge what she did, or I'm done with you too." My mom lost it. "You're tearing this family apart over a girl." I blocked her too. That night, Anna stood in the doorway of our bedroom, arms crossed. She looked at me for a long time before finally saying, "I need space." I waited for her to say more, but she didn't. She grabbed her keys and walked out the door. I didn't try to stop her because for the first time I realized my family, might have actually won. Anna packed a bag. She didn't argue, didn't yell. She just quietly moved around the house, grabbing clothes, toiletries, her laptop. I stood in the doorway, watching. She zipped up her suitcase, grabbed her keys, and walked past me. "I just need time," was all she said before the front door shut behind her. I checked my phone. No texts, no calls, nothing. She was gone. I sat on the couch, staring at the floor. My marriage wasn't just strained anymore. It was falling apart. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. A text popped up. "Told you she wasn't the one." It didn't take a genius to figure out who it was. Blocked. Again. 2 days later, another number. "You'll see. One day you'll thank me." Blocked. Then my mom called, this time from my dad's phone. She wanted to talk, said she understood I was upset, but family was family. I didn't answer. An hour later, I got a voicemail. She suggested I apologize to my sister, said it was the easiest way to fix things, that I was being too harsh. I deleted the message. That same evening, Anna's brother called. He wasn't calm. He had heard everything. The divorce party, the Reddit posts, the family group chat explosion. He was furious. "How do you expect her to stay with you after this?" he demanded. I had no answer. Later that night, another message came in, this time from a mutual friend. Anna had told them she was considering a separation. I grabbed a pen and wrote Anna a letter. I apologized, not for things I hadn't done, but for not protecting her sooner. I told her my family was out of our lives for good. I slipped it under her friend's apartment door. The next morning, I walked into work, and my boss stopped me at the door. HR wanted to see me. I sat down across from them, confused. They slid a report across the table. An anonymous complaint had been filed against me. Hostile work environment. Completely false. I skimmed the report. It was filled with vague accusations, claims that I had made women uncomfortable, that I had been unstable. I asked who filed it. HR wouldn't say. I didn't need them to. I knew my sister had found a new way to attack me. HR took the complaint seriously at first, launching a routine review, but after interviewing my co-workers and finding zero evidence, they dismissed it. My boss called me in afterward, shaking his head. "This was personal, not professional. Someone wants to hurt you. Be careful." But that didn't change the fact that she had gone after my job. I walked out of the meeting and called a lawyer. I asked about harassment laws, restraining orders, and how to make her stop. That night, my parents called one last time. I answered. I told them if they ever defended my sister again, they were out of my life permanently. My mom cried, my dad sighed. I hung up. 2 days later, Anna called. She had heard about the HR stunt. For the first time in weeks, she laughed. "She's insane." It was the first real conversation we had in a long time. She still wasn't ready to come home, but she was willing to talk. She had one condition: no more second chances. My family was done. I agreed. For the first time in my life, I finally knew what I had to do. The next morning, I changed my number, deleted contacts, and met with a lawyer. He walked me through options for a harassment restraining order. "It's not just about blocking," he said. "If she keeps finding ways to contact you, you need to establish legal boundaries." I realized then this wasn't over. Not yet. A week passed, then another. Slowly, Anna started coming around. She wasn't ready to move back in at first, but she stopped avoiding me. We talked, really talked, for the first time in weeks. Then one night, she came home. She didn't unpack right away, didn't act like everything was normal, but she was there. On one condition: we were going to therapy. I agreed. The first few sessions were tough. I had to face things I had been ignoring for years. How much control my sister had over my life. How much damage she had done. I saw the pattern. Every major decision, she found a way to be involved. Every serious relationship, she planted seeds of doubt. Every moment I was happy, she found a way to tear it down. Cutting her off was long overdue, but she wasn't done with me. Even blocked, she found ways to spread her poison. I found out through a mutual friend. She was telling anyone who would listen that Anna had brainwashed me, that I was isolated, that I was different now, that I wasn't myself anymore. Then she went after Anna's family. She messaged Anna's brother, telling him Anna was controlling, that I was miserable, that I had told her things about Anna I was too afraid to admit out loud. Anna's brother shut it down immediately. He called me, told me she was a psycho, that he had zero doubts about me, that Anna had his full support. But it didn't stop there. A few days later, my parents reached out. New number, long, desperate email. They begged me to fix things with my sister for the good of the family. We just want things to go back to the way they were. She's your sister. You can't just cut her off like this. I deleted it, but then a cousin, one I still trusted, reached out. He had something to tell me. My sister's sabotage wasn't just about Anna. She had been doing this for years with every single one of my past relationships. Every girl I had ever dated seriously, she had planted rumors, lied, and manipulated. She had actively worked to keep me single for years. It was always the same. She would find something, some small detail, and twist it. She'd tell my parents, cousins, and friends. I was in a relationship where my sister repeatedly claimed that the person I was with wasn't right for me, that they brought too much drama, and that they were changing who I was. Over and over again, people believed her because she didn't want me to have a life that didn't include her. She craved control. I told Anna everything, and she listened without saying a word. Then, finally, she told me to ask my parents why they let it all happen. So I called the last number I had for them. My mom picked up, sounding relieved as though this could still be fixed. I bluntly asked her why they allowed my sister to behave this way. There was a long pause before she quietly explained she just never wanted to lose you. That was the only excuse she could offer. I told her that they lost me a long time ago and that this would be our final conversation. I hung up, and for the first time in years I felt free. No guilt, no second guessing. Anna squeezed my hand for the first time in weeks and smiled. We were going to be fine. Cutting off my family should have been hard, but instead it felt like peace. There were no more guilt-filled texts, no unsolicited advice, no backhanded comments from my sister, just silence. Anna was back home, and though things weren't perfect, we were rebuilding. Therapy helped, and the therapist pointed out something I had missed for years. Anna wasn't just hurt by my family's actions. She was hurt because I hadn't seen the manipulation sooner. And she was right. One evening, after a tough session, Anna sat across from me at the dinner table and said, "If anything like this ever happens again, I'm gone for good." I nodded. There was no need to be told twice. But just as things started to settle, my phone buzzed with a message from my best friend. "Dude, your sister just posted some insane stuff on Facebook." I clicked the link. There it was, a long, dramatic rant. She had written about how she lost her brother to a manipulative, emotionally abusive woman, how she tried to save him, but was cut off for telling the truth, and how Anna had isolated me from my family. Of course, it ended with, "I just hope one day he wakes up and realizes what he's lost." The comments were a mess. Some relatives rushed in to support her, saying, "You were only trying to help," while others called her out, "Didn't you literally throw a divorce party? You've been spreading rumors for years and now you want sympathy? This is why he cut you off. Get over it." Anna walked into the room, saw my face, and raised an eyebrow. I handed her the phone. She read the post, sighed, and set the phone down. "I can't even be surprised anymore," she muttered. I was about to respond, to call her out and set the record straight, but I stopped myself. That's exactly what she wanted. Instead, I ignored it, turned my phone on silent, and went back to my dinner. The next morning, I received an email from her, a long-winded message about how I was brainwashed, how I needed to wake up, and how she was begging me to see the truth. I deleted it and blocked her email, but part of me wondered if that was enough. I started exploring legal options, cease and desist orders, restraining orders, because at this point she wasn't just a manipulative sister. She was obsessed. Days later, I received another message from my mom. "Your sister misses you. You'll regret this when we're gone." I stared at the screen for a moment and then replied, "If you ever want a relationship with me again, it won't include her." No response, but then came one last message from a cousin I still trusted. He told me something that sealed the deal. My sister hadn't just done this to me. She had tried to ruin other relationships too. She manipulated friends, relatives, and even ex-boyfriends. She thrived on control and never wanted me, or anyone, to be in a relationship where she wasn't the most important person in their life. That night, I blocked her email and, for good measure, blocked my parents too. No more manipulation. No more drama. She was gone. A full year passed, 12 months without my sister or my parents. No fights, no drama, no chaos. It was the most peaceful year of my life. Anna and I stuck with therapy. It wasn't easy, but over time things began to change. She didn't flinch when my phone buzzed anymore. She didn't hesitate when I told her I was done with my family for good. She believed me now. I had learned to set boundaries and recognize the red flags I had ignored for so long. For the first time in our marriage, we were stronger than ever. Not once did I unblock my sister. Not once did I check in on my parents, and I didn't miss them. One afternoon, I was at work when my phone lit up with an unknown number. I didn't answer, but a minute later, a text came through. "Happy birthday. We miss you. Mom." I stared at it for a second, then deleted it. I owed them nothing. That evening, Anna walked into the room holding a small box. She handed it to me without a word. Inside was a pregnancy test. Positive. I blinked and looked up at her. She smiled. "We're having a baby." For the first time in a long time, I felt something new. Pure happiness. That night, we talked about the future, about what kind of parents we wanted to be, and about how my family would never be part of our child's life. We agreed. No second chances, no guilt, no regrets. A few months later, I got a text from a cousin. "Dude, have you seen what's happening with your sister?" I hadn't been looking, but he sent me a screenshot anyway. Her fiancé had left her. Apparently, he found one of her old Reddit posts, the one where she painted herself as the hero who had saved her brother from a miserable marriage. He started asking questions, and when mutual friends confirmed what she had done, he realized the extent of her lies. It didn't take long for her entire web of manipulation to fall apart. She went into full meltdown mode on social media, posting a long, angry rant about how people had abandoned family for no reason, how she was the real victim, and how I had turned my back on her. I read it once, then closed the app and moved on with my life. She wasn't my problem anymore. Anna's parents, once skeptical of me, had become my biggest supporters. When we told them about the baby, they were ecstatic. My mother-in-law hugged me and said, "You're part of this family now." And for the first time, I realized I hadn't lost a family. I had gained one. One night, I sat outside thinking about everything. The ridiculous divorce party, the rumors, the Reddit posts, how close I had come to losing my marriage, and how, in the end, cutting off my sister had saved it. I pulled out my phone, scrolled through my contacts, and found the last few lingering numbers. Cousins, distant relatives, people who might still be connected to my sister. One by one, I deleted them. No more looking back. No more wondering. What if? I was free. Months passed. Anna's pregnancy was smooth, and for the first time in my life, things were quiet. No random texts, no guilt trip emails, no family drama lurking in the background. Then, one morning, I checked my email. There was a new message from an unknown sender with the subject line, "I deserve to meet my niece or nephew." I didn't even need to open it to know it was from my sister. The message started calm, talking about how family was important, how she had made mistakes, and how she missed me. Then came the guilt trip. She said she had a right to be in the baby's life, that I was being cruel, and that I was punishing her over a misunderstanding. Halfway through, the tone shifted to anger. Anna was the real problem, she said. She accused Anna of brainwashing me, claimed I had changed, and insisted she was the only one who truly knew me. I closed the email and blocked the address. Later that night, I told Anna. She laughed. By this point, she was predictable. 2 days later, a cousin called with more information. My sister had been secretly following Anna on social media under a fake account, liking old posts, watching stories, keeping tabs. She never let go. I realized then that this wasn't just about me. This was about control. She didn't want a relationship. She wanted access. So I took action. I met with a lawyer, went over options for restraining orders and legal protections. The next morning, I wrote one final email. "Stay away from me and my family. This is your last warning." Then I blocked everything, fake accounts, alternate emails, and changed my own email. I updated my security and told friends not to engage with her. No more entry points. Months later, our daughter was born, a beautiful, healthy baby girl. As I held her in my arms for the first time, I felt something I hadn't in years. Pure relief. My family wasn't there to ruin this moment. 1 week after the birth, a new number popped up on my phone. I ignored it. Then a voicemail. My mother begging for one last conversation. I deleted it. I looked at Anna, rocking our daughter in her arms. This was my real family. I didn't need to look back anymore. I was free.